Somebody asked me like, well, if you were doing anything else, what would it be? And I'd be like, I probably like destroying myself in unhealthy ways. If you're feeling trapped um, emotionally,
Hmm.
try to write a story or create a movie or something creative that is like, um, or photograph something or come up with a topic that is a literal translation of feeling trapped. I know if I'm doing something and I'm like, I am not loving doing this, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
not
gonna
gonna be
show.
great.
It's not gonna be the great representation of what you want to express. All right, welcome everybody to Heighten Your Sixth Sense with Sean Green. I got Mr. Benjamin Gibson here today. He's out of Toronto. He is a Toronto-based art photographer. He's a creative director who works to bridge the rawness of city life with beauty of human resilience. He brings over 15 years of experience with photography, filmmaking, and storytelling that inspires both creativity and transformation. Mr. Gibson, it's an honor and pleasure to have you on the show. I'm just, excited and just I feel blessed that you really want to come on the show and and share your story with us and and spread some of your knowledge and wisdom with the family.
Sean, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me on, and yeah, I'm curious to jump into it.
Yes, sir. So I always like to give people, the audience, like a little, give them a little, just a little short backstory of like how did you get to this position you are in? What made you? Like, what created you? What gave you the drive, the passion to do photography and just basically art in general? Because you're an artist of different varieties.
Yeah, so those are two sort of like different questions, I think. I mean, yeah, it's certainly not a bad life, but I put myself through a lot of shit. That's for sure, and that has contributed definitely to where I am, and I wouldn't change that. It wasn't necessarily the best things always to go through, but I've had a lot of really like awesome stuff, like
Hmm.
nothing like overly tragic. Great parents, very supportive, that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
Um, Art is something that I can't not do. It's
Yeah,
just
it's your
like,
hair. Yeah, I got
yeah, exactly. It's
you. Hmm.
the only subject in school that I excelled in a real way, where they were
Hmm.
like, this is kind of notable, you should look at this. Yeah, there was like a very brief period in high school where I thought about being like a PI or something like that. But like that was
Okay, okay.
because like I didn't really think that that was like a real, direction you could take. And I looked in this book and it's like this is a college course, and I was like, oh, that'd be fun. But that is
Yeah,
just that's the artist in me wanting to
yeah,
be a character almost.
I got you.
Um, and yeah, when I went to school for it, I actually started working at the subsidiary of the Toronto Star as a graphic designer when I was like 16 years old.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, Before I even went to like this was when I was in high school, so it
Hmm.
was literally like art was almost like the first job I
Hmm.
had.
That's cool they let you do
Um,
that at 16. That's awesome.
yeah, it was a weird situation in my high school, and they sat us down in drafting class of all places, and they were like,
Hmm.
"This paper is looking for a graphic designer." And yeah, it was some weird software that they used for publishing back in the day, and we were using like zip drives and FTPs to transfer files between it was in Uxbridge, Ontario, so between
Hmm.
Uxbridge and Toronto, where they were printing the thing. Yeah, that was a wild high school job to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just one of those things that like I can't get away from. Somebody asked me like, well, if you were doing anything else, what would it be? And I'd be like, I probably like destroying myself in unhealthy ways.
Yeah, I got you. You'll feel basically you'll be lost without your art and be able to create and share it with the world.
It's yeah, I mean I'm trying to think of like an example of a job, like the least artistic sort of job that I've done, and
Mm.
like I would
I
say
c-
maybe it was being like a bartender or something for a few years.
mm.
And that was it was actually like a great job, made really decent money. Like
Hmm.
if you're looking for some decent money right off the bat, try
Oh yeah.
bartending. It's great.
Oh yeah. And sure. And the more drinks you feed them, the better the tips get, right?
Yeah, like, towards the end of the
Yeah.
night, tips get
Yeah.
great. That didn't contribute to my later life, but whatever.
Mm,
At the time, it was fabulous. But even then, the moment I was in it, I was looking for design jobs. I was looking to get back into some kind of creative field. And commercial work up until a few years ago was where it was at, and that's what I was doing. So I did a lot of commercial photography,
mm,
um, video production, websites, advertising, that kind of
mm.
stuff. And then photography, which sorry, I feel like I'm rambling a bit.
No, you
Part
you
like
great. You great.
to the second part of your question, photography itself, that kind of hit me shortly after, maybe during COVID, I guess. So I was doing video direction a lot before that. We had a photographer like that worked with us in the company. He moved out west. And I kind of got to this point. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy a camera, and so I invested in myself, kind of, and
Hmm.
I had a background in like art and composition and stuff like that. So a lot of the artistic side of it came very natural. So it was a lot more about just learning the technical side of photography. And now I'm just experimenting with it. And now it's
Hmm.
actually something that I found again through the pandemic and through sort of like just kind of keeping myself as together as possible. It was an artistic expression,
Hmm.
and it was like this calming thing to do because it
Yeah.
wasn't
Like
not as in
therapeutic.
therapeutic. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's less intense than filmmaking in a lot of ways because you
Hmm.
can be very much by yourself and
Yeah.
like so yeah, it can be very very therapeutic to do that. So street photography is where that's at for me.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. I tend to watch those videos on, I guess, Instagram or Facebook where people are different photographers or maybe photographer video creators, how they can take these different shots and get these different clips and then they piece it all together and make this great like commercial or ad or whatever. It's like,
Sure.
man, it's so cool. I like watching. I don't know. It's so
Yeah,
interesting.
honestly, that's like
Yeah.
that's a lot of my content is like fashion inspo content, and I take that
Hmm.
so like because working in my commercial job is a lot of fun. Working with brands and stuff is a lot of fun. I really like fashion. I really like that sort of like um, hyper positive sort of side of life. But when it comes to my artistic work, that's where I kind of get into the deeper side of myself, and that's where it gets a little
Hmm.
darker. So I do like to keep my Instagram kind of on the more chill side, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's still very, it's still, I think I said that in a recent post that this is like therapy for me because it is just, on a Saturday afternoon, okay, like I've got nothing to do. Well, fuck, yeah, you actually do. Like, go grab some outfits and like take a walk and set the camera up and do some stuff. Like, just have fun with it.
Yeah, because it's like really, there's no rules, right? You just kind of
There's no
whatever.
rules. I also find it's from a business leader position, it's actually a lot of it gives me a lot of confidence because when you're out by yourself, you're setting up a tripod and then kind of talking to no one. You're like your first instinct is, "Wow, I look like a total idiot, fool right
Hmm.
now in public." And then you get to see the end result and you're like, "Okay, I remember why I did that." But then when you're sort of in a position where you've got to like, bring the hammer down, say something hard to somebody or something that you don't want to necessarily do or say or have those
Hmm.
hard conversations, you remember like, okay, like I actually do stuff that makes me uncomfortable a fair bit of the time. This is just one of those things. We're
Yeah.
just gonna get in the dirt, get it done, and everything will be better later, and it'll look way
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
after the fact when it's in post production.
I got you. You gotta kind of, like you say, you kind of got to go through the pre-takes or get dirty first, and then you can clean up on the back end. Yeah, for
Yeah,
the
a
final
hundred
final
percent.
result. Yeah, it makes sense. Yep, it makes sense. So, like, for someone wanted to, tell like a more authentic stories through photography, what are like the key elements that can make an image truly resonate with people?
So I think I was thinking about this. So I took a look at your questions before we got on the call, and I was thinking about this one. And I think so you can take a photo of so much of anything, and it could be an abstract photo that represents something that's like very meaningful to you, and you know,
Hmm.
without that explanation maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense. Or it can be a very you know, specific photo of you know, this great political scene. There's lots of things that can make a really great photo, and I'm reminded mostly there's this very famous photo that was on the cover of National Geographic, which is just a woman um, staring into the camera. I completely forget the name of the photographer because I'm not good at remembering people's names. And I
Me
mean,
either.
yeah, um, and it's an iconic photo. But what made it magical was the person in that photo. So I think there's moments. Trust your gut for one. There's those
Hmm.
moments where I think, for me at least, life guides me to a moment where one of those things presents itself, and you happen to capture that shot.
Hmm.
Um, because there's definitely lucky shots. You know, there's lucky shots when you're out shooting and you get something and you're like, oh, that thing is special. But what I would offer for advice for better storytelling through photography, that's something I can give practical advice on for sure. So that is to be more intentional with what you're doing. So for instance, when I go out and shoot, when I'm talking about that therapeutic going out and shoot and talking about finding that perfect shot that you're just sort of led to, that's kind
Hmm.
of just me going outside with a camera. Maybe a tripod if I'm thinking about it. But then there's also instances where I will go outside with a camera and a tripod, but with a purpose. And that maybe is just, it could be anything from exploring motion to exploring light to doing like a series. Like I'm working on a series now about climate change and stuff, and that
Hmm.
required me to actually go to British Columbia,
Okay.
specifically to this the Athabasca Glacier and the Victoria
Okay.
Glacier. To capture them at different parts of the year, and
That's
it
really.
doesn't need to be.
So,
Yeah, thank you. It
so how
was
long did you have to go? Like, be like in that area? How long did you have to stay to work?
So just in that area, only for like a couple of days. But this was part of a bigger series that I did. First off, I spent about a month and a half traveling across Canada for Canada. My first series, which was sort of just a look at post-pandemic Canada, because it was coming
Hmm.
back to life. The hotels were like dirt cheap,
Yeah.
and I hadn't drove in a really long time, so I
Hmm.
figured this is what my partner and I decided. Let's drive across the country. And to be honest,
No,
he did
but that was a
most of the
fun
drive.
trip.
Oh, it was a great trip, and
Hmm.
it allowed us to kind of reconnect with everything
Hmm.
post-pandemic. So this particular place that we were in, I ended up going back there, so a second time, for the purposes of getting kind of more for both of these projects.
Hmm.
And didn't yeah we stayed the night there in both, well, around both places, basically 2 nights, like a night in Canmore, a night at Lake Louise, and kind of just traverse back and forth. And then we've got another friend who's up in Kamloops, so that's where we were in and around. We stayed in Jasper and then went to Kamloops, and that's where the Athabasca, can't say it, glacier is. So yeah, not a whole lot of time in each place, but it was just
Yeah.
really a couple of days of kind of exploring each thing. So what I was kind of alluding to with that is, and it doesn't need to be a big subject like that. Like you don't need to travel anywhere
Yeah.
crazy or anything like that. But go out with intention. So it could be if you want to talk about, you know, a social issue of some kind. Like you can go out, find an instance of that, talk to
Hmm.
somebody who can represent, like in a documentary. You know, if I'm looking for to do a documentary on a new law, maybe I'll talk to a lawyer and
Hmm.
follow the lawyer around for a day.
Yeah.
So if I want to look at something like, you know, a glass blowing, which is a friend of mine does glass blowing, so I've been
That's always
bugging her.
interesting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting visual for me. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking what I would like to do, and this is less about her, much left to her, but I want to spend a day at her studio, and I'm like, let me come in and just like, I want to get my camera like into the furnace and like get a bunch of different images that are cohesive and tell a story of maybe a piece of glass or a few pieces of glass or
Hmm.
the process itself. So kind of pick a subject, and that can be anything. There's a great, I think it's still going on. It started in like 2005 or something. It's a website called Humans of New York, and it's
Hmm.
just very simple portraits of people around New York City, and it's such a beautiful idea. Another photographer, Chris Mayawat, I think his last name is. He's in a Soho Photo Gallery in New York City, and he does all of his photos on subways. New York City
Okay.
is a great place to do that.
So
You
he
can
has his
just like
he has a neat niche. His
it's
niche, yeah.
it's a niche, yeah. So for instance,
Hmm.
right now, like what got me to, I was looking at Canada as a whole. That kind of brought me to these glaciers, and I started thinking about climate change, and that was sort of where this project stemmed from. Then there's a couple of other projects that I'm always working on too, just experimenting with to work out some of my other personal issues and that kind of stuff.
I got you. No, that's beautiful. I mean, I love the depthness you go with it. And then I know I was reading a note you had sent me, and you was mentioning how like you get when you get in the zone, you connect it, you get in that flow state with the universe, and and you just really kind of you in that moment, in that zone. So now I can see that in your. I'm looking at your Instagram. I'm just as you talking, I'm listening, but I'm looking at your pictures, and I can see that like it's not like a regular something I would take. No, when I take a picture of somebody, I'm just taking a picture of them. It's like your pictures are like in layers. It's like a every picture is like a fractal, because it's like how a fractal it just it never stops. So like you have your front, but it's like it's just flowing. The pictures are flowing. I don't know if you everybody told you that, but I'm just looking at it and yeah, I understand. I
That's
know
very
what
similar,
fractals are. I
actually.
understand how,
Yep.
how they make video games, how stuff, all right, it starts here, but it's continually flowing. The one thing leads to the next thing. And I see that in your art. So how can like everyday creators balance commercial demands while maintaining artistic authenticity in their work?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? That's interesting. So, I would say first separate them
Mm,
to an extent, and
okay.
that's I mean that in the sense of don't when you're working commercially as an artist,
Mm,
you need to be able to put that love in because that's where the quality comes from. It comes from as an artist, it comes from your spirit, it comes from your love of doing it. But you're also communicating somebody else's vision, and you have to
mm,
understand that that may not align directly with your vision.
that's
And there
true.
might be changes, and there might be criticism, and you have to be very, very comfortable, almost detached from
Yeah.
the work that you've done, or else it's very hard to take that criticism and roll with it. And commercially, you need to be able to roll with it. You need to be able to say, okay, yep,
Yeah.
like we're going to make these changes, and I'm going to get my paycheck, and that's going to be that. I would say in that sense, I like to love my clients. Like I like to feel
Hmm.
genuine love while I'm creating for people, and I think
Yeah.
that's where the soul is important. When you're holding the camera and you're with them and you're in that moment with them, that's when you need to connect with them and love them, and they are you, you are them. That is that moment. But then cut the cord when that is done
Yeah.
if you can. If you can
Yeah.
emotionally separate yourself from what you've just created, bringing it into post, make it pretty, do all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, as emotional as you need to be. But once you present it to the client, you need to be able to cut that aside because criticism is 90% of the time going to come back. If it
Yeah, that's
doesn't and
true.
you found a client that is like so on point with your vision, they like don't
Hmm.
give you any, they're like, this is perfect. Amazing for you. Hold on. Not a lot. Not
Not
a
a
lot.
lot.
But sometimes
Mm-hmm.
like there's certain people that I work with, certain clients that I work with, certain models that I work with. When I
Hmm.
know that I'm working with them, I'm like, cool, this is going to be it's going to be a
It's
great
gonna be a
day.
good day.
We're going
Yeah.
to go in, we're going to do this, we're going to have some fun. I kind
Hmm.
of already feel the energy and I know what we're going to be doing. If it's a new client, it can go anywhere. I mean, they can
Yeah.
have
Cause you.
I went into a YouTube shoot with a motivational speaker recently, and it was amazing because I actually ended up sitting I sat down. I didn't do anything.
Hmm.
I set the camera up and I'm kind of in your position. I started asking people
Yeah.
questions to get them to come. She's a motivational speaker. She was like, "Is the camera going?" And she just went. I was like, "I'm gonna go do other stuff. Like, do you need anything?" Yeah, it is. It depends on the people, but when it's a good match and you can get that reaction,
Hmm.
yeah, that's always great.
So have you ever had to like the energy and that's the environment wasn't right? Just like, I can't do this.
Oh yeah, 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 lots of times. And people are in different positions, like you know what I mean? Sometimes, and I've been in places where I've had to work with a client long term and not enjoy that work. And I would say that that is something that creatives also have to go through. And I think that's a good learning point too, because
Hmm.
that for me, um, those are the opportunities to really understand what other people perceive. Because when a client says to me, you know, I don't like the lighting, it's like, well, you know, it's your office. What are we talking? What don't you like about it? Because, you know, we all agreed that this is well lit. We don't need to bring any lights in. Like,
Hmm.
do you not like the way you're lit? Like, should we bring lights in? No, no, no. I just don't like the lighting. It took about 10 minutes of a conversation to find out that what the client meant was they didn't like that they could see their pores. So they
Mm.
didn't like that there was no kind of like filter really. So we actually
Uh,
ended up using all the footage. It was totally fine. We just added a little bit of a blurry filter to it just to kind of smooth out everyone's skin tone.
mhm.
And so it wasn't even a lighting. Sort
So
of
it's more of a perfectionism,
it was a
or
perfectionism thing, but and then so
mm,
once you go through this with a bunch of different people on stuff that you may not love to work with, you get a sense of what how other people think
mhm,
and how they translate their thoughts, what words they use, and how those kind of all click into place for somebody else. And you're like, well, that's really interesting. And then
mhm,
at some point, again, it was recently. I decided that as an artist, I actually had something to say myself. And I didn't, it wasn't that I didn't want to work with clients. Like, that's all great. I love telling people's stories. But
mhm,
I came to a point where I was like, you know what? I actually have something that I think is worth saying. That's when you should absolutely stay emotionally invested in your own work.
mhm. You're trying to express
That's
yourself.
when nobody else changes it. That's when it's your baby. That's when it's your art. So
Mhm.
when you so if you're producing your own film, you're creating a series for a gallery, something like that, be really, really true to yourself and stay in love with that work through and through.
Yeah, because it's that's when it's really a true expression of you if you are in
Exactly.
creative control of it. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can
Hmm.
be in love with stuff that you create for other people, but again, ultimately that's not your voice. That's not what
Hmm.
yours and I
It's
for a
not your
long
it's not
time,
your vision.
it's not
Yeah.
your vision and for a
Mm.
long time when I was like in my 20s and even in my 30s, I didn't have a vision. I had a voice. I knew what I wanted to say. I knew what was right, what was wrong, and I knew
Hmm.
what I liked and what I didn't like. But I
Yeah.
didn't have anything sort of unique to add to the conversation. So
Hmm.
I was happy telling
That
other
comes with
people's
experience and knowledge. Yeah.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And I was happy telling other people's stories at that point. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I still love to help people tell their stories, but yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
I get you. So how can, creative professionals like use personal transformation or adversity, since we're talking about that type of thing,
Mhm.
as fuel for their art without letting it consume them?
I think so. Again, I'll speak to creative professionals with the
Hmm.
caveat of like, you know, yeah, you got to be into that. You got to be like 100% emotionally and solely invested while you're creating,
Hmm.
but also be prepared to cut that, especially if you're
Yeah.
bringing in that kind of part of yourself to it, which is a very powerful thing to do. It's a very
Hmm.
good, powerful thing to do, especially using that kind of energy to create something better for yourself or somebody else. I think one of the best pieces of it, I'm going to be practical again. I really like practical advice
Yeah.
because like
I got
people
you.
are like, people are like talking, you know, oh, you do this and that, and then it's all
Hmm.
trippy and shit, and nobody, it's like, what did he even just say? So I'll give you practical advice. If you're feeling trapped um, emotionally,
Hmm.
try to write a story or create a movie or something creative that is like, or photograph something or come up with a topic that is a literal translation of feeling trapped and look into what that means. And that can go from I use that as a film writer when I'm writing narratives and stuff. So that's a lot of my therapy thing. So if I feel like I'm kind of like under a lot of pressure at work, I'll write a short about like somebody who's defusing a bomb or
Hmm.
something like that. So for instance, if you're a photographer and you're thinking about feeling like trapped, like there's a in Toronto, we've got like an abandoned I'm not saying break into abandoned places, but also maybe There's like an abandoned prison
Yeah.
here in Toronto. There's like different places like that that you could explore the
Mm,
theme of being trapped. You could explore that through photography, just in many different ways, actually, I think. So that's my practical piece of advice. Sort of take the metaphorical thing that you're feeling
mm,
and bring it into practicality and try to do something practical around it. If it's just straight up like how to work and channel frustration into art,
mm.
um, I don't know how to describe that. I can
Yeah.
just say that the action behind doing that is very
Yeah.
therapeutic
Yeah.
and it works just as well, if not better, than heavy drug use and drinking.
It's a
But it
way to
takes practice.
release.
It's a release. It's a release,
Yeah.
and it's a thing when you're working on something, especially if somebody's giving you like criticism on something, because that's always hard when somebody's like,
Hmm.
you put a lot of stuff into this and then they criticize it and now you've got to change it. And
Yeah.
maybe you weren't able to separate yourself from it because you're not, no one's perfect and we can't always separate ourselves. Then that's the moment to kind of really fall back in love with that client. That's the moment to fall back in love with the project. That's the moment to
Hmm.
kind of remember why you do. And you know what? If you can't, then walk away from it for 20 minutes.
Hmm.
Go do something else. That's a huge part of my practice personally. I've been sitting on a edit for a video. I mean, it's done. Like I know exactly what it needs to be, and I've spent like 2 days just kind of doing this in my head and procrastinating before actually like sitting down to functionally get it out. And I don't know why
Hmm.
that is per se for me. I just know that today it was a nice day out and I was like, I'm not going to do the same level of job if I sit here in my living room looking outside being like, oh my God, it's so beautiful out. I should
Yeah.
go for a walk with the dogs or I should go take some pictures. And I'm sitting here like in my apartment or in my studio trying to edit something. I know for me, like it's about knowing yourself too. I know for me that I'm going to be way more effective editing a good piece, putting my attention, my love
Hmm.
into it. If I spend the day outside, give myself that break, come back, and you know what? Maybe I'll be up to like 1, 2 in the morning editing a video, which is
Yeah.
not an unusual thing for creators to do. And I think that's sometimes why, because like we want to be able to live life,
Hmm.
um, have the time to create the time to create, which is also very necessary sometimes, and really be in love with the process, because
Yeah.
that's where the magic happens is when I know if I'm doing something and I'm like I am not loving doing this, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah. But
It's
it's
not
gonna
gonna be
show.
great.
It's not gonna be the great representation of what you want to express because
No, it's not gonna be where it could
yeah.
be, you know.
Hmm.
I'm gonna let things go that I wouldn't otherwise let go,
Yeah. Because
you know.
like you, if you're in your headspace or you internally, you not in the best energy, it's gonna reflect in your work. So I mean,
100%.
I get what you're saying. You would rather sacrifice, not sacrifice, but get out of the, you're not in the best internal space, and you'd rather go out and enjoy fresh air, be around people, be in the environment. Maybe take some photographs, go for a walk, whatever. Just get out, and then later on, after you have gotten yourself together, then you come back and spend time in your office or your environment, and then you can really create. For now, eternally you at peace. You know, you're
Exactly.
happier.
Exactly.
You're in a better state. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like you just get all that stuff kind of like
Hmm.
flowing, going through, and then yeah, I don't know if it's, I think there's some kind of like different levels of people and how they work, but I'm definitely one of the people that like I work better at night. I work better after sort of like
Hmm.
living a little bit of my day and being into it. I've never been good at getting up, having coffee, and immediately
Yeah. Getting right to
getting
it.
into
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, it's good you know what works for you, and but that's part of knowing yourself and learning yourself, and coming into your own creative flow.
Yeah, and that, yeah, definitely took a minute.
So I know I feel we kind of like talking about mindfulness and all that. So what role does mindfulness or self-care play in sustaining long-term creativity, and how can creators build that into their practice? And I think you really just explained it.
Yeah, you know what? And
Mm,
I'll go into a little bit more, and it's not like So I'm saying something like make time,
Hmm.
chisel out the time of your day, which is
Yeah.
one of those things that's like, this is not practical advice. You're
Tony
gonna have to
Robbins,
sacrifice.
Tony, I heard Tony Robbins, not to cut you off, but I heard Tony Robbins say that he said if you don't have 10 minutes to do something, you don't have a life. And I think when he said that on a podcast interview, I think he was referring to reading or something. He's like, you don't have 10 minutes to read, you don't have a life. But you gotta think about it, if you have 10 minutes to go out and go for a walk, or 10 minutes to
Exactly.
go get a fresh breath of air, or go down to the corner to cafe and sit at the corner and drink a latte or coffee or whatever and just watch people go by. That's something you want to do.
That
It's your life.
and that's part of living life. That's exactly it. So
Hmm.
like, yeah, you can. I sacrifice sleep probably too much, than
Hmm.
probably more than I should.
I'm guilty
But
of that
also
too.
like, but also, yeah, I'm sure you are for sure. I've
Hmm.
edited podcasts before, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying
Yeah.
like editing at 2 a.m. But oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought completely. Yeah, making time and chiseling at that time. I give up my sleep a little bit too much. Trying not to give up my sleep because physical exercise is also important for me.
Hmm.
Recovering is also important to me. So I'm kind of like, but that's
Yeah.
the gym is also a fairly new area kind of to get seriously into for me this year, and
Yeah.
it's a side note for this kind of stuff. But what I will say, and what you just pointed
Yeah.
out, is
The
that
gym is important though.
I'll sacrifice maybe an extra paycheck, for instance. Like if I get 6 offers for something, and I'm like, fuck, I can do all 6, but I'm not going to go
Hmm.
to the gym. I'm not going to sleep properly. I'm not going to eat properly. I'm going to be
Hmm.
having like pizza or friggin' McDonald's or something every night.
Hmm.
And, maybe I'll make some extra money at the end of these like 3 months, but it's going to be like 3 months of like hell work. I would probably be like, yeah, you know what? Let's take 2 of those projects just right off the table. And I
Because
used to just like,
carve it
yeah,
out.
give me everything, and I'll
Hmm.
just make it all work. But
Yeah.
there's a point of living your life. There's a point of
Hmm.
being okay with like, hey, you know what? I've got a few hours. I'm gonna go out and exactly get a coffee and sit down and just enjoy the life that you're living. I think that's
Yeah.
incredibly important.
Yeah. Because it's
So
passing us by every second, you know.
yeah, yeah, and I think
Hmm.
for an artist, so I think mindfulness is doing stuff like that for yourself in a healthy way. And when I say carving out time, and this is probably a Tony Robbins thing too. Like, if you've got time to, you've got 10 minutes to be on Instagram, you've got 10 minutes to do some cardio.
For sure.
If you got half an hour to waste on TikTok, you've got half an hour to go to the gym.
Yeah. TikTok, or you can get on there and 30 minutes be went by quick. You just getting that.
Yeah, TikTok's bad for that one.
Yeah. Oh man, that's why I try to stay off of it. I mean, I like it. It's very informative. You can learn some stuff, but it just you getting that scroll and you lose track of time. Seem like.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm.
It's a dopamine hit. Again, I mean yeah, it's a level of being aware of what you're
Yeah.
feeling in that moment, and that this is a chemical reaction. So like,
All right, for those people, I mean, for those artists that are looking to break into visual storytelling, whether photography or film, what strategies can help them, stand out in such a crowded creative industry? I know it's very competitive.
yeah, it is very competitive, and actually, a practical. I'm all about the practical advice today. So all the stuff that people say first off
Hmm.
the top. So go out, create. I think Peter McKinnon, Seth Rogen, everybody says it. Go out, take your iPhone, go create stuff, make stuff, put it out there.
Hmm.
That is absolutely step one. Step two is follow through, and is do the work.
Hmm.
I think that so there's a incredible amount of creators that I see who go after stuff, and then kind of when they get it, they just sort of stop, and they're like, oh, like I just want to go after something else now. Especially in the commercial world, especially when you're
Hmm.
in that world of like, you know, for lack of a better, this is just something I think a lot of creators can probably relate to in a lot of different cities and places. If you're
Hmm.
like in the real estate photography world, for instance, um, like uh, you're not necessarily going to be inspired all the time or super pumped to go see another condo, but but do
Hmm.
it and show up and do the work. And I mean
Yeah.
that because, like, ultimately, when you get to somebody like me or somebody even well about like beyond what I do, and I see somebody showing up and lifting shit and asking if extra stuff can be done and hanging out. I'm like, wow, okay, this is a person that I want to continue to work with. They can be the best editor, they can be the best filmmaker, but if they don't show up and they don't care about it and really they're just actually kind of into just doing the next thing or creating what they want to create. That's another thing as well. Like you can't go into a commercial setting to create specifically what you want to create. You can pitch
Yeah.
something and maybe they'll like it and maybe they'll have terrible suggestions for it and I would always support you by saying
Yeah.
defend your choices and defend your ideas, but ultimately, it's the client's decision. So yeah, I think you're not always going to be inspired, but show up and do the work, and because people notice it, and that's where you get your next job from. And that's when, if you're on a film set or you're working with a photographer on, that's when I'm working on shooting a product video for something that we're not getting, a huge amount of money for. It's not super exciting. If I've got a
Hmm.
great assistant on that, that assistant, that's who I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm shooting this thing at like Rogers Center. I need you to come with me, and I'm gonna pay you for it. And
Hmm.
like you're gonna do the thing that you want to do, and you're gonna get paid because you came in and you did the work on the boring thing you didn't want to do. And because good for you for actually coming in and doing the shit. That's my practical advice. Again, get in, keep making stuff. Once you get in any kind of foot in the door, work.
Yeah. Show up and do the work.
Show up, suit up, and do the work. And be helpful and be grateful for it. And I think that's a really big thing. Be grateful for the work and the positive reception that you do get. Gratitude has like a huge magnetic effect on
Hmm.
on on your
That's true.
life.
Yeah. And then that's the people really see that you really love what you're doing. You got gratitude. You got good energy. But that'll lead to referrals. They might tell their friends or other colleagues about this person, this company, and that'll lead to more opportunities for you. Yeah. Like
A
if
hundred
you
percent.
people can see, you can see it over your face, they can see your energy. If you're not happy, you're just kind of going through the motions. He's okay, but I wouldn't recommend him, that type of thing.
Exactly. And maybe
Hmm.
they can be pleasant, pay you, all the photos look great, video looks great, awesome, and you'll never hear from them again. And
Hmm.
that's just because you didn't make that big of an impact when you did that for them to be like, oh, they're not another videographer. They're not somebody who's replaceable. So when the next event or the next instance of hiring comes up, they might not think of you because they're just thinking, I need somebody with a camera who can do the thing. What
Hmm.
is the closest thing I can get to that? Not, oh, Ben's really reliable. I should hire him
Yeah.
because he made it so easy the last time, and because
Yeah.
he was accommodating with stuff the last time, and because he went that extra mile.
Yeah.
So
It makes sense. It's just, just like anything, you gotta, if you do a good job and you come with the right energy, and people gonna recognize it. All right, man. Well, this has been a really
there's
great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and looking forward to the next one. And whenever your stuff release, you know, let me know, and I want to love to check it out and be a part of it.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, can I plug my website and my Instagram really quick?
Yeah.
Cool. Follow me on Instagram at Ben in Toronto, or Benjamin Gibson Photographer, and check me out on benjamingibson.ca, which is my website.
Okay. Yeah, as an acting, just
Cool.
the bit to hype you up. It's great work. I'm looking at the photos or high quality photos that you sell on your website, and then all the stuff on Instagram is great too. So really good work. So I think you guys will
Awesome,
enjoy it.
Sean.
So
Thank you so
check
much.
them out, support them, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Like I said, this like it's been another great podcast. Show Fighting Your Sixth Sense, and I'm just thankful that you came on here to bless us with your thoughts, energy, and your wisdom, and all your awareness. So definitely appreciate you being on.
Oh, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All
Great
right.
talk.
Well, much love, everybody. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. How Your Sixth Sense. All right. Peace.